Hello and welcome into your Week 1 recap. The BFFL season is finally underway. We have real games to talk about, and it was kind of a wild and wacky Week 1. We're going to go over the scores, and we're going to do a couple other fun things. So, welcome into BFFL headquarters, where I am always wearing a jersey, and it is always football season. So Thursday night started off well enough. I was at a lovely bar to watch the game with some of my fellow BFFL owners, and soon enough it turned into sort of a disaster. The second half of the Patriots-Chiefs game started with the Patriots nursing a narrow lead, and soon enough that lead was gone, and they had totally gotten smoked by the Chiefs and the young upstart Kareem Hunt, who had John about as excited as I've ever seen John. So, more importantly than that, though, the bar I was at lost my credit card. So, just sucked for yours truly and sucked for the team that I hold near and dear to my heart. But I digress. Let's look at some injury news, and then we'll look at the breakout stars of Week 1, and then we'll go over the scores and do a couple other fun things, alright? So here we go. Obviously, Week 1 sucked for injuries. The biggest news, of course, David Johnson, the number one player in fantasy, dislocated his wrist and left the game against the Lions, and it sounds like he's essentially done for the season. I mean, fantasy's 14 weeks, so, maybe he would be back for the playoffs for Dan, but he's essentially done for the year. So Dan's got a tough road ahead of him. Fuck you is going to have a hard time. Obviously, nobody can just fill in for that role. Kerwin Williams or Chris Johnson or whoever, it's going to be probably a committee there. So tough draw for Dan. Other than that, Allen Robinson tore his ACL on his first catch of the season. So John's Thursday night Kareem Hunt party was dampened a little bit by that news. And then we also had Odell Beckham in kind of a surprise no-show. He did not play on Sunday night against the Cowboys. So that's got to make Bry a little bit nervous going into Week 2. The ankle's looking a little bit iffy there. So we'll see what happens. And then obviously in the injury news that shocked nobody, Kevin White broke his collarbone, and Graham immediately dropped him. So, yeah, that's your injury news. All right, now let's take a look at the breakouts for Week 1. The aforementioned Kareem Hunt had to be far and away the biggest player of Week 1. He had 43.5 points, and he just tore a hole in time and space and was a bright, shining Polaris in the sky for the Chiefs. Better than John could have ever expected when he drafted him and named his team after him. And he had sort of a triplets thing going on too with the Chiefs. Tyreek Hill also had a huge game for Jeff Bowles, who apparently has no morals, rostering players who choke their pregnant girlfriends, but I won't get into that. He didn't draft his team after all, but Tyreek Hill certainly looks like quite a dynamic player to own for the Chiefs. And then we also had Tariq Cohen, who helped out nobody, but Graham was the first to grab him off the waivers, so Graham looks like he's got quite a exciting little water bug for him. And whoever owns Jordan Howard, I don't know off the top of my head right now, but he's got to be a little bit nervous with how much time, how many snaps Tariq Cohen saw for the Bears. And then we also had my boy, Stephon Diggs. He looked awesome, and I am excited about that. So those are your breakouts for Week 1. Now let's take a look at all the scores and see what happened on the field. Alright, well, as you hopefully all noticed, I changed the schedule around this year, so it's not the same as it's been literally every other year of the BFFL history. So the first game in the Week 1 slate was the Umlauts, yours truly against Shiny and Swishy, Jeff Bowles. This was the narrowest game of the week as I just eked out a win by the skin of my teeth. 1.5 points, 92.5 to 91. Largely thanks to the fact that Melvin Gordon just couldn't quite get that one more carry, that one more catch. He had a few negative runs at the end of the Chargers game that sort of salted away my victory. So quite an exciting game. My running back performance was lackluster, but my receivers, Steph Diggity and Jordy, looked quite good for Jeff and Shiny and Swishy. Melvin Gordon looked pretty good, but another significant injury in this game was Danny Woodhead, who went out with a hamstring pretty early on in his game, so that's trouble for Jeff. All right, next up we had what I'm going to affectionately call the Battle of the Bad Breast Puns. Big old TDs against the Pittsburgh Feelers. Jeff Vlasovich and Jason. The Pittsburgh Feelers were winners here pretty handily. They won by about 30 points. As Leonard Fournette's very strong debut was not enough for the big old TDs. They couldn't overcome Jamison Crowder and Eric Decker piddling down their leg. And Jason got great performances by Antonio Brown. What else is new? Ty Montgomery, Todd Gurley, Matt Ryan. It was just a workmanlike effort, and they cruised on to the victory. Up next was last year's runner-up Keep Pounding, taking on division rival, the newly named K Hunts. And Kareem Hunt certainly lived up to his team's name Thursday night, blowing off the doors of the season with the 43.5 points. However, I'm sure John didn't picture that effort would be essentially half of his team's output, as the rest of his squad kind of pooped themselves, and they ended up with 97 points, which fell well short of Keep Pounding in their 113. For John, Jimmy Graham and Allen Robinson, obviously, who got hurt, were disappointing. For Jurger, Matthew Stafford, who he unflinchingly started over Drew Brees, answered the bell and had an awesome game. Shady McCoy and Lamar Miller were good too, so solid victory for the defending Rich Eisen division champs. Keep pounding. Next is a battle of Trey Wingo division rivals. Did you know that Fuck You has never lost a season opener? That's right, Dan's team is 3-0 in the first game of the year. He kept that streak alive this year, beating Boob of the Week, Dalvin and the Chipmunks, 88.5 to 66.5. Although, as we saw with the other newly named team from a rookie running back, Dalvin Cook had a good opening for the Vikings, but it wasn't enough for Graham's team, as the rest of his roster just didn't get it done. And even though Dan lost David Johnson for the year, hopefully this win will ease some of that pain. He had a good effort from Amari Cooper and Golden Tate, among others, and got the victory. The final game of Week 1 was also the most lopsided one, as Chill Out Inc. just throttled Scissor Me Timbers 110.5 to 70.5. While Bry was very confident coming into this game Thursday night, owning Tom Brady and the Patriots D, he was walking with the swagger, but after those two gave him a collective 11 points, he didn't have his head so high. Also of concern for Bry is the fact that Hunter Henry hardly saw the field for the Chargers, so that's going to be a question going forward, what to do at tight end, as well as the health of Odell Beckham and his dubious ankle. For Tony's squad, Jordan Howard did well, even though Kareem, what the fuck is his name, Cohen stole the show. Also, Zach Ertz and the Eagles' defense came up very big for Tony. He was bullish on them going into the game, and they were awesome. So that will wrap up the scores for Week 1. Alright guys, well that'll do it. Your Week 1 recap is in the books. This was fun, and I'm going to try to keep doing it the best I can for these coming weeks. One other thing I wanted to mention was, in case you didn't notice, I am rocking a little bit of BFFL swag. I went to Lids and had a hat made. I thought it was pretty cool, and you can do the same. You could have a BFFL hat, be the envy of all your non-BFFL friends. I do want to place an order soon. It's going to be cheaper to get a bulk, so pretty much if everybody wants a hat, I think I should be able to get them for like $20, which is actually a really good price for a hat these days. So, you know, be a cool dude and support the BFFL. Yeah, I'll have more details soon. But for now, I'll see you next week. Enjoy the Week 2 slate of games, and I'm going to leave you here with a little musical tribute to my new favorite player for the week. So I will see you next time.
You know what? I like this play. It's the phone diggity, no doubt. Play on, player. Play on, player. Yo, Chris, drop the beat. I like the way you work it. Not a trash bag at all. I like the way you work it. Not a trash bag at all. I like the way you work it. Not a trash bag at all. I I like the way you work it. Not a trash bag at all. Another first down.